us to gather here tonight, this afternoon rather, to conduct our town's business. It's an honor and a privilege to be in service to others, Lord, and I pray for your guidance and direction in all things that we do. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Under the agenda for today, dated the 28th, under new business, is a presentation of appreciation. And I will do this, and I'll ask Mr. Paget to come up here, please. Yeah, you didn't know, did you? And y'all see what we have. Congratulations. Okay. In appreciation for Greg's 20 years of service to the town, I have a resolution that I've signed that I'd like to read. Resolution of appreciation for Greg Paget. Whereas Greg Paget for the past 20 years has served the town of Valdese with distinction as a committed and dedicated public servant with the Water Resources Department. And whereas throughout his tenure, Greg Paget's profound knowledge and steadfast dedication has significantly contributed to the effective management and sustainability of our vital water resources. And whereas under Greg Paget's guidance, the town of Valdese has made remarkable strides in the efficient utilization and conservation of water, ensuring its availability for generations to come. And whereas Greg Paget has demonstrated exceptional leadership, fostering teamwork and collaboration within the water resource departments, and earning the respect and admiration of colleagues and community members alike. And whereas Greg Paget has consistently demonstrated a passion for environmental stewardship, advocating for responsible water management practices and spearheading initiatives to safeguard our water supply. And whereas Greg Paget's leadership led to innovative modifications in disinfection treatment strategies, enhancing public safety, while simultaneously reducing chemical costs, including pioneer a first in the state pilot study to replace chlorine disinfection with peracetic acid disinfection. And whereas Greg Paget played a pivotal role in the development and advancement of Valdese's annual capital improvement process, ensuring continued infrastructure enhancements for the community's benefit. And whereas Greg Paget's continuous dedication has resulted in the optimization and maintenance of our water facilities, ensuring a consistency, high level of service for our residents. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Valdese, as we take this occasion to express honor, respect, and admiration to Greg Paget for his outstanding contributions to the water departments and the Town of Valdese. Be it further resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Valdese, North Carolina, hereby expresses its sincere appreciation and gratitude to Greg Paget for his service and leadership to the water departments and the Town of Valdese during the past 20 years, and extends congratulations and best wishes upon his retirement. Adopted this 28th day of May, 2024. Congratulations. Okay, council, new business item B, review and discussion of June 3rd, 2024 preliminary agenda. And going to the consent agenda, before we go any further on that, under item F, I believe Mr. Weichel has one more thing he needs to add to that item F for the American Rescue Plan.
Yeah, we had 6 policies listed here, but we're actually missing one for an electronic advertisement. So that's the only thing that would be added.
Electronic advertisement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just allows us to advertise using federal funds electronically, or for projects.
Okay. Any questions on the consent agenda, council? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to new business. Item A, the Valdese Police Department presentation. None of that will be done tonight. That will take place on June 3rd. That moves us to item B, consideration of appointments and/or reappointments to the Valdese Economic Development Investment Corporation. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, can someone summarize the appointments that are coming up and the?
I'll try. I think I can.
Okay.
VEDIC makes the recommendations, their board does, and council approves those recommendations. Council can also make recommendations for those appointments. Right now, there's 2 appointments that are up for reappointment. One is Tim Barus, and the other, I cannot recall the lady's name, I'm sorry. Kylie Guerra. Okay. So those are the 2 that's up for reappointment. And VEDIC will address that June 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Any further questions?
Yeah, just one. If citizens are interested in serving or being appointed to that board, how would they apply?
I would recommend they contact Carrie Petit.
I'm sorry?
Carrie Petit, who's director of VEDIC, contact her.
Isn't it the council's responsibility to appoint someone?
No, I just stated that VEDIC board makes those appointments
No, I don't
and
think so.
nominations.
I don't think so.
And then we approve them.
No, I don't think so.
And the council can make their nominations. Nominations can come from council or VEDIC.
Okay, I heard all that. My question is, if a citizen would like to be considered for appointment, how would they apply?
Fill out the application that was sent out to council this afternoon.
And it's also on the town website?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Item C, fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget and scheduling of public hearing for Monday, June 17th, 2024, presented by Mr. Steen and Mr. Weichel.
Go ahead, Mr. Bowe.
All right. Well, we'll jump right into it here. So what we're going to do right now is just a recap of what we talked about the last budget workshop, the last one that we had, that we all left on. And that's how the budget's set up right now, and then we can have further discussion after we get through this if we need to.
Bo, do you want this on this, the slide on the screen?
Sure.
That's the HDMI 3.
Okay. All right, so we'll start like I always do with the general fund first. So what we discussed at the last meeting to get our number down, we remember we were at $500-some thousand, going off a 41.5% tax rate. So out of the CIP, we removed the land use plan for $100,000. We reduced the budget that we had from $120,000 down to $80,000 for the attorney's fees, so that's $40,000 reduced. The public safety money, we had $324,000 in the budget originally. That was being transferred out to the capital project fund. So we're using 150 of that to go towards additional paving, and then the remaining amount, 174, towards that reduction. ABC revenue that was being put in the public safety goes back into the general fund now. We had we talked about a $2 recycling fee increase that would generate $40,000. Reducing the Friday Family Night series, that season, reducing that season a little bit would save $10,000. Festival fireworks, $6,500. We had in there money for a full-time planner, so we removed that, and we're just keeping in the part-time money for the time being. reducing the county election fees since it's a non-election year. And then we added $5,000 for additional police training that they needed. So with all those numbers ran, we're at a $69,000 fund balance appropriation, which is a lot better than where we were a couple months ago. So, and I'm comfortable with that number as well.
Haven't we had some changes since this?
Not on this. What changes are you looking for?
I'm sorry, do you have some more slides to present, or is this just the overview that you're giving, the overview?
Well, this is general fund, and I have one more slide on utility fund.
Okay, well, I had some questions about this. There were some things that I felt that council had not quite resolved.
Okay.
We talked about the 5% raise that the staff gave themselves, and we had some discussion about that. I think the staff has had a 10% raise 2 years ago, 5% raise last year, as I recall. Cost of living increase is less than 4% in the past year. I was hoping that we might consider a 4% cost of living increase in this coming fiscal year instead of a 5%. And in particular, one of the great deficiencies that we've had in our budgets for several years is a lack of staff training. And I suggested at one point, and I'll suggest it again, I think we ought to have $30,000 or $40,000 allocated for staff training. I think people who feel that it's only pay that keeps employees are missing this whole staff development thing. We haven't had any staff training in process improvement that I'm aware of, customer service, teamwork. We picked up $5,000 for police training, and that's good. But in all these other areas, I think that we really need to do some staff training, and we're going to be hiring a new manager shortly. I think it almost behooves us to have a budget available for the new manager to do some staff training if he feels it's necessary. But I can't imagine that a manager coming into a new organization would not feel that that kind of training isn't necessary. And then there's a position that's been not being renewed that should reduce the salary budget by $100,000 or so, I would think. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's in the utility fund, though.
Pardon?
That's in the utility fund.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yep.
All right, I guess my other couple questions have to do with the utility fund, but
Okay.
those are the major ones. And do any other council members have any concern about that? Do you think is 5% the right amount?
I do, I have a concern. First of all, we've never had 10% raise that I'm aware of.
No, we have
No.
not done. I think where the 10% is coming into factor is last year we increased the minimum pay plan 10%.
Yeah,
And that only affected about 5 employees.
Right.
So it wasn't a raise, it was just increasing the pay
Right.
plan, trying to keep that up. That's all.
pay plan adjustments.
What was the percentage of the increase across the board?
Last year it was 5%.
The year before,
Really testing my memory
I
here.
think it was 5 too.
I
I
think
think it was
so.
either 4 or 5, I can't remember. Yeah.
I've got some information I'm gonna share with council. This came from the paper Saturday, and it's under the headline of Burke Retirement Wave, City and County Brace for Labor Shortage. And what I'm gonna read is from our county manager, statements that he made. And this is regarding multiple retirements that's coming up and that's taking place at the county and at the city of Morganton level, and our level as well, because we will have some retirements this year. And this is, like I said, coming from Brian Epley, the county manager. Epley said the problems loom on the horizon as leaders age out. The workforce is shrinking rapidly, and quality applicants will consistently become harder and harder to find. Declining birth rates and mass retirements among the baby boomer generation have conspired to produce a future labor shortage of epic proportions. The workforce we are approaching is at a cliff, not only in local government, but in all industries, he said. The age demographic breakdown of our workforce reveals there are far more people retiring than they are entering the workforce. Epley added that it's becoming increasingly difficult for government agencies to compete with the private sector for the most desirable applicants. Case in point, Morganton's search for a senior planner is now stretched to a full year, and they still have not filled that position. Local government tends to be less attractive industry for young people because it tends to have lagging wages. Epley also said in order to attract qualified personnel, cities and counties will need to up their games with better pay and more flexible schedules. So that, to me, is kind of outlines what we're facing. And it's not just us, it's everybody. And my point in that is, unless our pay ranges are where they need to be, and they're certainly not there now, then we will have a difficult time finding police officers, firefighters, utilities personnel, and anyone else, administrative staff. That's my speech for the day.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you. But, one of the underlying problems the town's facing is that there has not been a comparable salary study done by the town
That was done in 2019, the last one.
for 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a serious deficiency, because until you do a comparable pay study, you don't know how your jobs line up with those of industry or those with other towns. So that's badly needed. That's another thing that needs to be done. And that along with training, I mean, I'm sure Mr. Epley is an HR expert, but there are several factors that have to deal with getting good employees and keeping good employees, and having comparable pay with comparable positions is important. Having training and an opportunity for growth is important, and certainly pay is important too.
I don't like the comment that the staff gave themselves a raise. I think that came from the town manager, is my understanding, and his budget. It was not that the staff got together and voted themselves a raise. I have no problem with staff training. I do have a problem that if we train in customer service, this council needs to be trained in customer service and how to treat people.
I work in customer service, so I'll be the first one to sign up.
We didn't coordinate this, but I read the same article, and I think many of us did, probably all of us did, but I noted that too, that it's very difficult to find, and as a business owner, it's extremely difficult to find qualified candidates, and when you find someone that's worthy to be hired, then you're in competition with other businesses to secure that. To secure that hire. I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem with a 5% pay increase. I think it might be a good idea. Councilman Harvey mentions having a budget for training. I like that idea, Councilman Harvey. I think it would be good. And I think it would be effective maybe to do a pay study. It's been 5 years. Now might be a good time to, I don't know what the cost of that would be, or if that, who we would contract with to do it, but I think a 5% pay increase is needs to be implemented at at our manager's recommendation.
I think we have a pay study in the CIP plan in like 2 years maybe, so that the new manager can decide who he needs to use for that maybe.
Well, I think even with the town manager, we see the challenges that's gonna be, that position. So it's not just the town manager, it's all of these positions in local government that we're gonna struggle to find.
I have one more question for the council members that I almost forgot, and that is, as I've mentioned to you, and I told you I was gonna raise this question again. Again, I've asked the council members to consider taking themselves out of the employee insurance, group insurance plan, and providing their needed compensation under government compensation and not by participating in employee insurance program. We have the responsibility for the welfare of our employees, not just pay, but for providing them with a good group insurance plan. I think that the fact that the council determines what level of group insurance we provide and then participates in it ourselves is a little bit of a conflict of interest, and it's something that just does not. Oh, there's another thing about it, and that is that employees, part-time employees, cannot participate in the insurance plan. But our council members, we council members are part-time, but we participate in it, and that doesn't seem quite right. So I think, not quarrel with whatever council members decide they need as compensation for attending all these meetings. I just think it ought to be dealt with as compensation and not by dipping into a staff insurance program or any other staff program. That's just my opinion. It's just one comment, and if we voted on it, it would just be one vote. But I think it would be better if we moved that level of compensation of the council members out of the group insurance plan into the government activity as compensation.
Okay, anyone else? Councilman, would you have a question? Okay.
Is the council in agreement to maybe add to the budget, upcoming budget, some training? If we were in agreement with that, would that look like, it was recommended by Councilman Harvey, I don't know what amount of money, or maybe our manager can talk about this, how much money would be needed. I wouldn't have any problem adding. I know right now we're looking at dipping into our fund balance, correctly, so.
Right.
I know that's a lot less than what we dipped in last year. I think we took 150,000 out of the fund balance to.
So one option we could do, since we're gonna have to dip into fund balance either way at this point, we can wait for the new manager to get here and to find some training that he would want to do, and then we can do a budget amendment at that time instead of trying to squeeze in the budget
That's a
now.
good idea.
We don't know how much.
Yeah.
We can go that route. That's
And that's a question. What type of training are we talking about? I know Mr. Hudson just went, a week or so ago, Alan, to a week's training that you went.
It was schooling and training on what we're gonna have to do about some stuff coming down the pipe.
Is that the type of training we're talking about?
I think what Glenn's talking about is more of a professional development
Yeah.
and customer service.
Yeah, process improvement training is a big one. Basically, the whole world is in undertaking process improvement, has been for about 40 years. And if you've been following this, if you're working if you worked in a large company, you worked for a large staff, it started out in manufacturing firms with ISO 9000, and then it moved into service industries. Most large service industries have intensive process improvement training, and so that's a big one. And it's particularly big for Valdese because we just gone through a budgeting process, and I've made this statement before, and even made that paper that the mayor referred to, that we didn't have one example put forward from the staff of process, improving a process to do something that we do every day less expensively. And that's just, that's the way businesses exist these days, whether it's a service business or a manufacturing business. And that's one kind. Customer service, you know, the way you treat the people you interface with, that's a big thing in a lot of state agencies and even some of the towns that I've dealt with. You know, you ask a question or you get information from them. They follow up with questions, asking you to rate the quality of the service that you got. I've seen that with a lot of governmental units as well as almost any service organization these days. Teamwork, it seems like we have a lot of separation among our departments here where, I don't know, 3 or 4 departments mow grass instead of one group mowing grass or sharing equipment. I don't know that in any depth, but teamwork is another thing. That's just in organizations with a large number of employees and with 70 or so full-time employees, we're a fairly large number. Team interaction is an important thing to train.
I did have one question, Mr. Mayor. Bo, the attorney, reducing the attorney fees by 40, are we on track to being able to accomplish that, or is that?
Well, it'll probably get us about, at this point, about 9 or 10 months worth, I would say.
I was actually
So-
talking to you and Jessica about this the other day. A huge amount of the questions that we have to ask the attorney is brought on because we did not have a town manager when we stepped into our positions. We did not have somebody who was familiar with Valdese. I mean, we have the mayor, but it's not the same as having a manager who we could go to and say, how does this work? What are these committees? What are we looking at? And a lot of times, as a new council member, you feel like you almost have to drag, for lack of a better term, the attorney into it, because we never received an orientation. My orientation was with you when I had to, thank you, when I came to get my iPad. You walked me through and showed me where everything was, and that was before Brian came on the scene. But we never received a proper orientation. It was like, oh, here you go, sit in these seats and figure things out. I feel like 100%, well, okay, let's be honest. Probably 85% of our issue is we are like mushrooms with a lot of things. And I don't like being there. I don't like not knowing what to do other than say, hey, Swanson, what are we doing with this? I don't get it, because we don't have the manager who is familiar with just Valdese and the processes. So I apologize, not really apologize, but in a way do to Valdese for having to, bother our attorney so much. But it is because we did not have any of the orientation and training like we were supposed to have, like other members have had. So yeah, definitely, I'm thinking training for our council would be good at this point, so we don't have to bother our attorney so much. And I that's how I look at it, because I shared my thoughts with you and Jessica the other day. I was like, I want to know what's allowed, what's not allowed, but we weren't given that privilege, unfortunately. So I think that's where a lot of it's come from. We're just trying to figure things out, so on our own a lot of times.
Okay. Any more questions on the general fund? Utilities.
Okay.
Sorry.
Utility fund. So we'll start at the bottom here. We're not pulling, the way things are set up right now, we're not pulling anything from the reserves of fund balance of the utility fund, so that's good. Just to recap what we did last time. So we had the outside users rate at 1.5 times. So per the request of council, we moved that to a 2-time multiplier over a 2-year period. The next thing we did was moved inside residential water to a no increase. So I believe we had it at 4%, I think. So we moved that to a no increase, so they're staying flat. Commercial, industrial, we left as proposed. Wastewater side, residential, commercial, and industrial, left as proposed. And then for our bulk users on the water and wastewater, we talked about doing 6%. From the CIP, we removed that $600,000 Vector truck from the capital and the associated debt payment, because we're gonna borrow the funds for that, so both of those came out. We had talked about originally putting one aerator in for $300,000, but once we removed that Vector truck, we decided to put the additional 600 back into 2 more aerators, because they were spread out over the next 3 years, and since they would be doing them just a one and done, so we don't have to bring in cranes 3 times and so forth. So that's kind of where we left it for the utility fund. Again, these employees also get that 5% COLA that's proposed in the budget, so if that's changed, it would change this just a little bit, but.
Bo, what is the outside water rate going to be for the lowest customer at 2.0? Because I have received quite a few calls from folks that are not happy with the 2.0.
Well, if we go over the 2-year period, I think it was gonna be 58. Is that right, Gary, do you remember? Or Alan? I think it's 58, because there's a percentage, it's 53% of whatever the current inside rate is. I just know that, 53%, so wherever that math works out to.
Okay, and then the second year would be?
And it would be double whatever the inside rate is.
Okay.
So if you go we're leaving inside rate flat this year, so whatever it goes up, then the outside rate would be double whatever that inside rate is.
So we had talked about a multiplier of 1, so in this budget that you're reviewing here, is that is that proposing going to 2.0?
Correct.
In 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah.
In 2 years?
Yeah.
Over 2 years.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
spread
Yeah,
across.
1.5 and then 2.0.
Then 2.0, right.
Yeah.
Had we settled on that? I know we had discussed it, and I have received some calls too of citizens outside of this, the city limits of Valdese concerned that their water rates were really gonna go up. I mean, is it necessary that we go to 2.0 multiplier? Can we keep it at 1.5 and be okay? I'm just asking.
That's up to council. The direction that the staff was given was to go 2.0 for now.
Will 2.0 leave, will that leave excessive, will that leave an additional balance credit to our utilities fund that would be,
Well,
do we
right,
need to go that high is my question, I
Yeah.
guess. And maybe the people that can answer that question aren't here, but
yeah, it
sorry to put
does,
that on you.
it does help the fund to address some capital improvement projects that need to be done that are over that 10-year plan. So that does assist of doing those, so we don't have to borrow so much money. That makes sense.
Does
We can
that
pay for
assist
more.
those customers in the triple community
Yeah.
that are paying this rate? There will be
Yes.
projects that will assist them.
Just the capital improvements itself of the plants and stuff it'll assist them, yes.
Will assist them.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my
I mean,
question.
they'll benefit from any capital improvements we do, if that's your question.
How
So-
much of the total water plant expense is covered by the water fees?
Say that again?
Yes, the total cost of operating the water plant, the capital improvements and the annual operating expense, is it all covered by the water fees?
Yeah, that's really our only source of revenue for the
Pardon?
utility. That's our only source of revenue for the utility fund.
Okay, so it's not supported by Valdese taxpayers beyond that?
Correct. It's not supported by taxes, it's only supported by revenue from water and wastewater sales.
Can someone tell us what the outside rate is right now before any of this is implemented? I'm sorry, I should have these numbers, and then what'll happen next year?
Okay, so When we're talking outside rate, we're mainly talking our triple community
Yes.
customers.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're the same as inside right now, which is $38.50.
38.50.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they'll be going up to around 58 something, so about $20 a month increase.
So it'd go from 38 to,
58,
58-ish, yeah.
And then-
$20.
Yeah, about $20, yeah.
and then the
Because
next year.
They don't pay sewer, remember, so it's just,
Right.
we're just water only.
And then it would increase again, or is that,
Yeah, so that would get you, if you left the inside rate flat like we talked about, so inside residential water stays flat, up to $58, I think that's about a 53% increase. So that first year, and then next year, they'll get to that true 2-time multiplier. So that would be double, yeah.
So it'd be $116.
No,
No?
no. It would be, it depends on what council does with inside rate next year, so I can't say for sure what would be.
7710 is what I had written down before.
And they-
Yeah, if, say, let's just say for example purposes, you left the inside rate flat again next year, it would be double whatever that is, 38.50 times 2. So if you did a 4% next year on inside, it would correspondingly go up, however that much that is. Does that lose everybody here?
I think all of us probably got the same call. Well, she said she was calling everyone, so she
Yeah.
probably did.
Yeah, I got several.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got one.
I've had more than one, yeah.
And I understand where they're coming from.
Absolutely, because that lady was, that's all she's living on is Social Security.
And
hard.
I think she was an elderly lady, if I
Yes.
understand correctly.
95, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
To reaffirm what you said, to make sure my ears heard correctly, the water plant is not supported by tax dollars.
Correct.
Okay.
And when we're talking about 2 times the rate, we're only talking about water. So, your inside customers pay water, sewer, trash, recycling. So we need to take all those out and just look at water only when we're talking about doubling the rate.
So doubling, taking the 38.50 and doubling is what you're saying.
Over a 2-year
Over a
period.
2-year period.
Unless it goes up a little bit next year for inside, then that will correspondingly follow that, yeah.
Okay.
But,
I guess if we have any opposition, we'll hear it at the upcoming
Next
town
week,
council meeting.
yeah.
so I guess that's one direction I need from council, is do we want to leave that 2.0 multiplier in there for the proposed budget?
Oh, I just found another item that I thought was under consideration, actually 3 items under capital improvement requests.
Mr. Hart, let's finish the
Yeah.
water rate
Oh, I'm
discussion.
sorry, we're still on water?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was done.
So for council, do I propose the budget, or me and Brian propose the budget with a 2.0 multiplier? Is that the way you want to go?
I'm for the 1.5. That's, I'm one voice, but
I'm for the 1.5.
Yeah, I think I am too.
It's hard for people.
Heather?
What do you think, Heather?
There's a lot of questions in my head right now. I would like to know how other areas look at, how they do it. I mean, I did get a lot of calls from good friends of mine who have chewed me out this week. So not chewed, yeah, they've been a little livid with all of us this week.
Most water producers that are towns, water districts, they're looking at a 1.5 to 2.0 outside multiplier. So
Okay.
that's not uncommon.
So we could cover ourselves with the 1.5, is that what I'm hearing? We would be okay with?
We'd have to make some adjustments to probably the capital items, I would say. If we went to a 1.5 multiplier, we'd have to look at the aerators, probably taking this back down to 1.
So this ultimately affects every person though who uses so
We-
people know where we're coming from.
Right.
This ultimately affects everybody who gets the water. It's not just us saying we're price gouging you to get that. We're just,
Right.
that's what I got. That's what I heard over and over again. You guys are price gouging us. I was kind of curious how everybody, because we can't talk about this until we're in these meetings, so I was curious what everybody had heard, on their calls. What are you hearing? what is the
I
overall?
think one of the things that gives it kind of a shady look,
Mhm.
and we're not being shady, we're being transparent,
Yeah,
but the fact that we're not going up on inside rates
okay,
and we're raising so much on outside rates,
gotcha,
I think that kind of threw a blanket on it.
okay.
So what's council's pleasure? I've heard three say 1.5.
That's a majority.
1.5.
And what we could do is do 1.5 this year, all in 1 year. Is that what we want to do? And then relook at it again next year.
Yeah,
if we
I think
wanna
that's
do
a good idea.
That would be
Yeah.
great.
And then
Yeah.
relook
Yeah.
at it, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Thank you, council. That's a good move.
Okay. All right, good, good.
Now, can I go to
Bo? any-
Yeah, go ahead and then we'll,
another
Okay.
utility item?
utility, okay?
And that's what we're on, right?
Yeah,
Okay. There was some discussion about, oh gee, these are not, the items I missed were not utility items.
Okay.
But go ahead,
What-
you proceed and then, until you're
Okay.
finished with it.
so to make up, we'll go right back to general fund in just 1 second. On the utility side, since we're gonna do that 1.5 multiplier, any reduction in revenue, is it okay with council if we take away from the aerators if we need to? Instead of going from 3, maybe we'll have to go down to 2. I'll have to play around with that number, but that's the way we'll propose it. Okay.
Can you enlighten us? Will that be effective?
Well, originally, we just had 1 in
Right.
there. So,
So
We had-
2 would be better.
Yeah.
yeah, we had 1 for the next 3 years, and we were trying to push them up to 3
Okay.
in 1 year.
Okay.
But,
Thank you, Bo.
okay. All right, well, let's go back to general fund now. We'll get your questions.
Back to general fund, yeah, there were, about 3 capital improvement requests that, I think the efficiency task force looked into. One was an in-ground lift for $30,000.
Mhm.
It was my understanding that got reduced, or could be reduced.
Right.
Is that being reflected in these new numbers? You haven't
I-
reflected that yet, I guess,
Yeah,
have you?
I think because I just recapped what we did that workshop, but I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe we did reduce that to 20,000 as the efficiency committee recommended.
And then there was a pickup truck, for the streets, an F-150 for $46,000. And then there was a tractor for $60,000 with a mower on it. Did those get dealt with and commented on by the efficiency task force?
They looked at it, do you mind if I
Yeah,
speak?
go
on it?
ahead.
Okay. They-
We looked at each capital item very
Yes, yeah, and, the efficiency task force decided that it was best to keep those in the budget.
It left it in the budget?
Yeah, So
Efficiency task
there's-
force did?
right, and they're currently still in the budget for those items.
Okay, and then, what happened with the recreation, the non-resident fees for the recreation department and for community affairs? Was anything done to spread that differential?
Yeah, the recreation fees, they got increased to a spread of 35%. Was that right, David, 35%? More than, so outside pays
More than the town.
35% more than inside.
Okay. And how about the community affairs events where we sell tickets? Is there a differential there with fees?
There is not a differential in that. And I think we looked at that,
Yeah.
but
They are already on sale. All of our events are at least a year in advance, so I'm tied to those rates that we've offered and already advertised for this season.
When we talked about Comma, places like that, they don't have a differential. If you go to Comma and buy tickets, it doesn't matter where you live.
yeah. I do remember us talking about that.
Comma.
The Hub in Hudson, same thing.
From what I understood, we had decided not to do it so much with the community affairs,
so.
but with the recreation.
With
That's what-
recreation,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
want to go back to utility fund again?
Yeah, sure.
Those questions I asked earlier about a salary item, for example, the position, is that being factored into the utility fund? No?
Right, it is. So,
That's been a reduction in the,
yeah, now we had to reallocate some of that salary savings to some outside, third-party, expertise.
okay.
But as that's going to be on an as-needed basis, and we'll get to that agenda item here
And
shortly.
then there was a vehicle used for personal commuting. Is that
Yes.
being sold and returned to the reserve fund?
So, good question. So that vehicle, staff, and I think we talked to the efficiency committee about this, but the vehicle that position's not going to be using anymore. We have another vehicle in the same utility fund that the transmission's going out on. So it's either repair that vehicle, or we can swap them out and get rid of the one that's going bad. So that's, if council's good with that direction, we would like to swap those vehicles so we don't have to pay for a transmission repair on an older vehicle.
Good move.
Instead of selling the newer one, swap it out for the older one and sell the old one.
What will we do with the older one then?
Sell
Sell
it.
It needs repairs, so we're either gonna sell it or have to repair it at this point. So it would save us some money if we were to do it that way.
So somebody's looked at the numbers and said it's cheaper to, we don't want to repair the old one, but we're going to sell it anyway? Is that-
Well, we still need it, so we'd have to repair it and keep it and sell the Explorer, or we can swap it out. They don't really need a truck. They just need a vehicle, so we can swap out the Explorer and take that truck that needs repaired and just get rid of it instead of having us pay a
Okay.
couple thousand. Yeah, anyways, if that's good with everybody.
Council, anyone else?
Did you look into, one thing I had someone ask me about the orthodontics part for employees, retired employees too?
Yeah, so that, we were able to add that to the
Great,
dental plan.
good, thank you.
It was a very minimal cost as well.
So we'll be adding that for the council members too.
What's the
All the
dollar
council
gets
members can now get on the orthodontic plan? I
Yeah.
guess so, right?
I don't need orthodontics. I had 'em.
There go the false teeth.
I think the only thing I really need direction on at this point, because we talked about the training, wait until the new manager gets here. I think that the only thing for the budget purpose is the COLAs, what direction we want to go there.
So what are we gonna see on June 3rd?
You're gonna see the whole budget and the manager's budget message, so you'll see the whole packet.
Will we get to see where we are year-to-date as well?
Year-to-date, I'll have the projected, yeah, and I'll have year-to-date through April, yeah.
Okay, so that'll be a column
Yes, sir.
as well.
Yep, I had that in there.
Yeah.
Yep. But,
You need direction on the COLA.
yeah,
Council, what's your pleasure?
I say 5%.
I concur, I agree, yeah.
So we're not gonna add any training budget?
What he's gonna do is, when the new manager gets here, figure out the type of training the manager would like to have, like what you recommended, and then do a budget amendment, once we identify the type of training and where it's gonna come from and have a definite cost. Does that work?
I guess so.
Okay,
But we're gonna still have a 5% cost of living increase for.
that's what I'm asking.
so difference between a 5% and 4% is around $26,000, I believe. So that kind of gives you a range.
Is that with benefits, is that benefit included in that, or is that just salary?
It's just salary.
What do you mean by benefits?
I had trouble following that calculation, but the total salary budget is $5 million,
Mm-hmm.
and 5% of that is,
Well, if you do the COLAs, it's like a 5%, it was like 134,000 total. So quick math, you just divide by 5, it gives you a roundabout. Now taxes and stuff adjust that number a little bit, but if you take that divide by 5. I didn't run the numbers for this meeting, the exact differences, but I think when I divided by 5, it was around 26 or 27,000, somewhere in there.
And if you divide by
No,
4, how much would that be?
Well, I'm just, hold on.
4%.
Well, you,
saying is with 5,
we know that,
$6,000 more than the 4.
yeah, $26,800 is what
Okay.
each 1% is worth.
So 1% would add $26,000 to our payroll.
Yeah, the COLA. So if you drop down to 4, you drop down $26,000. I'm trying to make it as easy to follow as I can, but, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that got confusing was that the total, if you compare the total compensation budget of the new fiscal 24-25 with 23-24, the increase was $330-some thousand. And that's where it looked to me like 1% would be about 60,000. But of course, insurance, the group insurance went up 3%, so that goes up as well. And then when salaries go up, FICA goes up, the contributions to retirement plan goes up,
Mhm.
and the overhead costs go up as well. So
Yeah.
they all add together, and if the rest of the council thinks
Have we ever looked into a more cost-effective insurance policy? I didn't know if that was something that could ever be
Talk about
possibly.
medical?
Yeah, it just seems like, it does seem like a lot monthly
Mhm.
that goes into our insurance compared to a lot of other people that I talk to. And that's a lot of our citizens are saying, because they're hearing the numbers now, which they had never heard, and they're like, man, that's a lot more than what our jobs are paying out, or what we're having to pay monthly. So that was something citizens have approached me about and said, is it possible to shop that out a little more?
Every year, they
We-
check it every year.
So we do shop that out every year. Last year, we switched to a more cost-effective savings HRA plan.
Mhm.
So what that does is it puts more of the burden on the employee
Okay.
up front, and then on the back end, they can get a reimbursement for the final part of their deductible. So it's putting more burden on the employee, but it did bring our premium down quite a bit.
But they do pay, well, like the town, we do pay for the employees' they're not having to contribute at all
To the
to their
premium.
insurance.
To the premium, no.
Each month,
Right.
okay.
Right.
So it's not like with most jobs where it's like, I have to, like my husband has to pay for half of his insurance where he works, and then the business kicks in the other half. So with a town or I'm hearing is like they get everything taken care of.
Right,
Okay,
because we have a high deductible plan.
yes,
So typically, the employer covers the premiums on that. If we were to offer or to switch to a PPO plan,
mhm.
then the employee would have to kick in some money towards that, which is typical.
I'm just asking all the questions that I get
Yeah.
asked every week, so.
Yeah, and the reason why we have a high deductible plan
Mhm.
is it puts more of the burden on the employee, but it gives us a lower premium for the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I've heard from 2.
I feel like a lot of times in these situations, people look at us like you are the ones making these decisions and it's just how you feel. And it's hard because we are getting, I get calls from employees, but at the same time, I get calls from citizens with concerns too. So that puts me in this constant state of who do you listen to? How do you cut it? It's a lot. So when they're asking, why are they getting this? Why are they getting that? It's not that I have anything against employees. It's I'm getting questioned and I have to be able to say, this is what's happening. Because if it was up to me, my Lord, I'd be like, here, take it, go. Yeah, we want to give you guys everything because it's especially, I don't mean it bad, but our police and firefighters, I know that they deserve a lot more than what they get. So it's always in the back of my head, how do we take care of them and so it's really, this is where I have to just sit and go, okay, I asked the questions, now I gotta figure it.
And the reason why we're needing some direction tonight, because tomorrow morning I gotta start
right.
getting this document put together, and so we can get everything keyed in, and, because once you change that 1% number, it changes every department's number, so.
Are there any more comments on the COLA? I've heard from two. I need an answer from the other three, please. Or a comment of some type.
Do we wanna,
I want to get this solved
Okay.
tonight.
okay.
Could I have just one final?
Sure. Have at it.
We ended up here at the last meeting, and I thought I heard you say as we were breaking up that you were gonna be taking a look at interest and a few other things. And it sounds to me like we could probably end up with a zero balance. Is that still a possibility?
It is, if if rates stay where they are, I think we can get pretty close to making that number up. I like to be more conservative in the budget with my investment income, but I think with the way the rates are right now, if the Fed doesn't lower them, I think we can come up close to making this number up.
Close to zero.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that's versus last year, we had $238,000 deficit.
Right.
I want to make sure I understand. A 4% raise is this, a 5% raise is this. There's a $25,000, $26,000 difference between 4% and 5%. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And that's this year. I mean, that would be
Correct.
plugged into what?
Right. That would be for the upcoming budget. Yeah. So that's spread out across all your departments.
$5%. Unless nobody's gonna say anything, I'll go ahead and commit. I've heard from two.
My thing is I know it has to be across everything, and I look at all the departments, and I know there are people who are needing a little more. I hate that our insurance is so much. That is driving me crazy, because I know there are people who just need the money to live on, and that is where I'm having a hard time right now, because when I'm getting calls from the employees, it's not even about the insurance or anything. It's what they are making is not enough to live on. What they are bringing home, they're having to accept assistance from other places. But there are other things that their money goes, like I can't retire in 20 years or 25 years, whatever it is. I can't. My job is public sector. I can't do it. So that's where the citizens are stepping in and talking to me and saying, well, I can't do it, so I can, there's all these things in my head right now that I'm, just so everyone knows where I'm at right now.
And when we compare to other towns, there's two different types of increases that towns and counties do. You got COLAs and you got merits. So merits performance-based, COLAs cost of living, whatever the board feels is necessary. So when you're comparing increase to other towns, it's important to see if they actually do a merit as well, because we don't do a merit here. It's kind of wrapped up into our COLA. So that's just one thing to remember when the citizens and council's looking at comparing to what Morganton or Drexel does or whatever. So that sometimes they'll list a COLA, but they won't list their merit, but they got to add the two together to get that total increase. Here, we don't do a merit, we just do a COLA only.
From what I'm understanding, a lot of the places don't do a merit. They say in public, or in government sector, there's no merit. And that's what always concerns me. I'm like, there's no merit? You just always get a cost of living? Wow, that's phenomenal, because I get, in my case, I would get fired if I did some of the things that happen. So I guess I'm looking at, I'm telling you, this has been a struggle for me, because I've heard so many, it's about 50-50 on the cost. So as far as cost of living in other areas, what did you say it was for?
I don't
Do
have
we
any
know?
percentages what other towns are doing. I was saying that
Okay.
sometimes they'll do a COLA and a merit. Like where I came from, the city of Hickory, we did a COLA and a merit.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and I was at ComEd show the other day, and one of the council members from the city of Morton was there, and I asked her, what kind of raise are you giving your council or your employees? She said a 3.5% plus a merit. Now, I don't know what the merit entailed. I don't know what percentage the merit entailed. I do think, if I remember correctly, she said it would equal to about a 5% increase with the 3.5% plus the merit.
I think they changed that. It's 4% COLA and a 1% merit. But
Okay.
like you said, 5%.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at that time, she told me 3.5%, and they may have changed it, you're right, I'm not sure.
And really, you could look at it, if we were doing more of a merit-based percentage, if we did 4% cost of living and a merit like that, that would reduce a lot of our need for training because they know they're being watched. A lot of that comes from a manager looking over your shoulder and is that not how that works?
That won't reduce
Okay.
training. No.
Well, somebody needs to do something.
But that's
I'm
a-
like, is that not how that works? Because okay, so back to public sector government, it's a whole different world. And that's why you have all these people so angry that aren't in the government sector, ready to ride it dawn, because we don't understand how people in a government position just get everything.
Why don't they try to get a government position job?
Several of them have tried, and you have to know the right
Yeah,
people,
there's-
unfortunately, to get a government position.
I think there's plenty
different
open
sides.
right now.
And there have
There's
been
lots
several.
open right now, believe you me.
And you try to get them, and you have to have, all these things that
Yep.
a lot of them couldn't afford to get because we have public sector jobs. So that's why I guess I'm really struggling because I've heard both sides, so.
The problem we have as a council is that we're talking about salary at this stage of the game, when we're looking at basically a zero deficit budget. And the pay plan, the salary budget, all should be looked at the beginning. But the first time we learned about the 5% raise was when we saw the first budget numbers. And so, we were, as a council, we were kind of painted in the corner. We can't take an objective position on salary increases for the employees versus what's happening with the cost of living versus what's happening with our citizens. It was built in from the beginning. So we were put in a position of, we either are ogres and we're gonna cut the staff salary, or, well, it's either that or just go along with it. So the timing wasn't appropriate. But hopefully, next year, things will be a little different. Hopefully, we'll have a pay study, and we'll have some solid data on which we can base compensation, and maybe we'll get that done before we go into the budget preparation stage. But we are where we are.
Yeah, I just personally think, if it's gonna cost us $26,000 more for a 5% raise, I would certainly be in favor of the 5%.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That's three.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, does somebody else?
Anything else? Anybody
Yes,
got questions for Bud?
fee schedules,
What,
the fee we were talking about for records.
okay. Public records requests. Currently, it's not in the fee schedule to have a line for charging for public records requests. And we say charging, that's just the IT cost of email requests and this is kind of old school, but a per page request too. We had to make copies for somebody. That would be in there as well. We don't have to run into that because everything's electronic now. But it's mainly the IT side of things. When we get a public records request, do we pass the expense along and put in the fee schedule, or do we just continue to do what we're doing now? I think that was a question that came up, and we said we'd discuss it at the
Yes.
budget discussion, so.
I'm gonna ask what the federal guidelines are for that.
Yeah, so I think Bo's touched on it. So you can charge for, I think the word is substantial IT expense or something like that. So if you're incurring a cost to comply with a public records request on the IT side, then you can charge that back to the requester.
Okay.
Yep. And we do. We have a company that we use, so whenever these things come in, and they do come in rather frequently. In fact, we've had one person, I think just one, ask if they could make a standing request on a periodic basis to get emails. I informed them no, they have to make a request whenever they want the records. But you are getting probably at least 3, 4, 5, I would say a month that we're complying with.
And those are incurring the IT fees?
Yeah, so
Okay.
the town is paying its IT professional
Okay.
to essentially go through the servers, pull the responsive records, then they come to me. I have to review them for what would be confidential or privileged information and remove that, and then we produce the records. You cannot charge for my time, unfortunately, under statute.
How much is the charge that you're saying right now?
For the IT professional, I don't know, Bo may know that. I don't know what
Yeah.
they charge per hour or search.
So we buy bulk hours for the year for IT services, so we get a discounted rate when we do that. I think when they're doing these email requests, pulling these, it was a new program at the beginning. I think it's gotten much quicker since the original email requests would come in. But what we would charge, I guess this had to be in the fee schedule, is we had to pass our costs along. So $110 an hour would be what the fee would be.
$110 an hour?
Yes, that's
Now, let me ask you this, Mr. Swanson, can they not take that to mediation? Just from my work in the school system, we were not able to charge any kind of big fee like that for public records, which are the right of the public to see our emails.
Yeah, so there is a mediation process if they dispute the fee.
Okay.
But remember, the statute also affords us the opportunity to charge that fee for IT services.
I just think that's making it difficult if someone wants information that they have a right to. We all know that. Our emails are public records, and if someone wants them, that's a high fee that we're asking them to pay. And I have a problem with that.
Have we charged the IT fee, or is that's discretionary? So are we charging it now to these? We're not.
No, we came back a while earlier and said we don't have this built into our fee schedule, so we weren't going to. And then my recollection was we needed to have this discussion now for the year going forward. And if I understand, you don't have an IT department or an IT staff to be able to have your own employees go in and pull this out. And that's why we're having to go to this outside provider, which is not cheap. But again, I wanted to make sure if we tell you we're going to do something, we don't forget it, and then y'all think we failed you, which I know it's kind of difficult, but we said we'd bring it back up, and we're doing what we said.
Yeah, I'm not in agreement to charging that fee. I don't want to do anything that looks like we're being less than 100% transparent with the public, and I feel like that would be a little bit of a roadblock, especially for someone that can't afford that. That's just the cost of doing government. We're going to have to eat that fee. That's my opinion. Or we're going to not charge that fee.
And we've had people in the past that have requested our emails, and I know there's been a lot of public record and financial requests that have been made in the past, and those people have never been charged.
Who are we and how much are we being charged now? Are we charging people, and how much has been charged?
No, we currently are not passing the cost along because we don't have it built in our fee schedule. So a couple months ago, this came up, and we said we'd address it as the budget, because the fee schedule gets adopted with the budget. So that's why we're having this conversation now. I had forgotten about it, but Mr. Steen had.
How much has been paid out so far, just so we'll know the numbers as far as that 110 every hour goes? I just want to
Yeah.
know that, just so it's out there. Just-
I don't know off the top of my head. Initially, it was setting up the program and getting that rolling.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a tremendous cost now at this point. They got their system down. They run a query, I guess, and get those requests a little quicker.
I feel like
I
before
think-
we make a decision, I would personally want to know how much
Yeah.
before I say either way.
I think the secondary benefit of having a fee schedule in place is not the IT expenses, but you make the requester make a more targeted approach in when they're requesting, right? Right now, just there's no repercussion of requesting every single week. If you want to, you're also incurring expenses and legal fees for the review of that. So the 110 or whatever it is per hour for the IT may not be that significant, but then when you compound that and put my hourly rate on top of it for every single request, it starts to become more significant, and you cannot collect my fee. So, for instance, there was an occasion this past month where I got a request targeted to maybe 3 or 4 days. I responded. As soon as I responded, that same requester submitted another request immediately, asking for more records. So, and I'm not saying they're not entitled to the records. They are by statute, but there's no motivation to not make requests and just kind of engage in this somewhat fishing expedition to see what you find in the emails. A more targeted approach would certainly save, I think, the town some funds or expenses.
Would it be, Attorney Swanson, would it be possible to, in sending this requested information, public records, to the person, could we summarize, would it be legal to summarize what are the costs we incurred that we paid to have that information furnished to them so they know what it's costing the town?
Yeah, we certainly could. Mhm.
I would make that recommendation.
I think people definitely need to see what all is being, because I feel like the ones who are requesting things are probably the same ones who want us to give money to a lot of projects in the town, and when we're having to balance everything in my head, I'm going, okay, there's this much money we could put toward this, but we're having to, and I don't want anybody to ever be in a situation where they can't get information, but it does seem like we are spending out a lot currently.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is add this to the budget, but only as a guide maybe, and not, I don't agree with having to pay $110 either.
And I don't think the IT costs are that significant. That's what we pay per hour. It could take them 30 minutes to do a
Yeah.
request. I don't know, but as Mr. Swanson said, his time is what's
Right.
hurting us the most. Yeah.
Well, our emails are public record, and we should know that. So when we write emails, realize that anybody can get them. And don't write things
Yeah,
in
we
them
all
that
know-
shouldn't
we
be
all
in
know.
there.
We all know that. The issue is, it's a chilling effect. We have, on this council, we have probably more than one person who's afraid to put anything in email. They won't even answer a question on email because they think, I don't know what they think. And that's what we're dealing with here. But, some of us don't care. I would copy anybody wants my emails, any citizen, I'd be happy to copy them on any email I send to the council, happily. I've told people that. I told our newspaper publisher I'd do that, and yet he still requests my emails. I'll give them to him. He don't have to bother our attorney for them. But, if we let it be a chilling effect and stop our communications, and that's where sometimes we get into that spot where we can't communicate among ourselves about ordinary things where we want to share information because somebody might ask for our email. I'm not proposing a fee or not a fee, it's just the cost of doing business.
Okay. So be it.
So no fee?
No fee.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Any more on the budget? Are you done?
I think so. Thank you.
You're as bad as the planning director there sometimes. Thank you,
say
Bo.
that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, council, item D, revision to Valdese Town Council rules and regulations. Rule number 5, public comment. Council discussion.
Anybody interested in discussing any kind of change? If not, we move on to the next thing.
I am very pleased with what we have in place at this point. I don't think we limit people. Our job is to listen to people, and if we want to be transparent, then that's what we need to be, is transparent, and if citizens want to speak to us, we need to listen to them.
Anyone else?
Well, the intermanager shared with us the rules that the town of Albemarle put in effect recently, and I thought they were great. They provided for public input. In fact, that town meets, that council meets twice a month, and they have a public comments period at each of those meetings. So they also put some limits on the people who could come in and give presentations. And we sit here sometimes for half an hour or 45 minutes and listen to somebody give a presentation that we had no idea what they were gonna, all we knew was the subject, we didn't know what they were gonna cover. So I thought the Albemarle rules had a lot of good ideas in it, but I don't know if anybody else looked at those, but I thought there were some good suggestions.
Councilman Harvey, I looked at those. I didn't see a lot of difference in what we're doing. Did you see any big difference, or is there something you could point out that maybe I didn't see that they're doing that we're not
Well, they
doing?
meet twice a month.
Yeah,
They have a 30-minute public comments session at each one of those meetings.
right.
They limit speakers to 3 minutes. And there are a few other things, but it's a little tighter than ours.
I think on the minute time is a little bit tighter than ours. I think we go 5 minutes, they're 3. They're going 2 times a month meeting, so, but as far as transparency goes, I think they're as transparent as we want to be and are.
Whatever happened, I know the school board had recently had this discussion, and I think they had to call it back for another hearing, so.
They did. They went from 30 back to an hour.
Back to
It was not successful.
Okay. We could just tell people it'll save on attorney fees and help.
Well, you know, I just think we need to listen to people, and if they come speak to us, then we listen. I'm not in favor of twice a month, because then you're gonna have the same people speak to you 2 times a month. And is that what you really want?
I'm happy with the way things are.
Yeah, I'm in favor of just keeping it the way it is. I think it would complicate things having public comments, twice a month. It's just so much more efficient doing it once a month, in my opinion.
Okay. Council, can I have, I'm sorry.
I was gonna
I'm
say, it
sorry.
would be nice sometimes to only have 3 minutes a person. Nobody wants to hear me talk more than 3 minutes, so, but I understand people do sometimes have a lot to say. Now, the presentations, if there was a way sometimes to, if we have special, I would be in favor instead of it.
I'm fine with limiting the presentations to a certain amount of minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know what type of revisions we're looking at. I don't think we've come up with what we would like to do to revise our public hearings. I know we looked at Albemarle's, that's basically what we did. I think we just sort of wait, if we're looking at revising our rules and regulations about public comment, we need to discuss it and set some more ground rules if we're going to do that. We haven't done that yet as a council.
I think what I'm hearing is we're leave it alone like it is and limit the amount of time on presentations.
Yes.
Is there a time frame council would like to see on presentations?
15 minutes. Is that okay? That's just my suggestion.
It'd be 15 minutes total.
On
Yeah, if
presentations?
someone comes and does a presentation for us,
Like
15
yeah,
minutes, and then if we have questions, we can ask.
Something like BDI,
Yeah,
Yeah.
15 minutes.
okay. All right, how about the public comments? We're still going with 3 or 5?
I just say we leave it. I don't think we touch public comments.
I think transparency goes a long way. You just leave it alone at 5 is what I'm feeling.
Well, what else could we as a council do to help us revise our rules and regulations?
I
You
don't,
know, is there anything else we need to discuss, talk about?
no, I don't see anything else to revise, my opinion.
Okay.
I think the main thing they were looking at here was time, the time that the public has to speak and the time that someone has to come in and make a presentation, not public speak, but a presentation. So, presentations limited to 15 and leave public speaking where it's at, is what I'm hearing.
I go with that.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay, item E, consideration of approving resolution establishing Newtown of Valdese Ad Hoc Street Maintenance Committee. Councilman Harvey.
I'd like to just make a general comment about items E, F, and G. Consideration of 3 new committees. The proposed resolutions will be in the agenda packet. They've already been sent to all the council members. It's a suggestion that we extend what we've done this year with public involvement. We have 3 new committees: the Facilities Review Committee, the Efficiency Task Force, the Drug and Homeless Task Force, which got 15 or 16 people involved in some important town decision activity areas. And these 3 are also important areas that I think if we create if there's enough interest on the council to create the committees, if there's enough interest in the citizens out there that they'd like to serve on these committees, then would be another opportunity for citizens to get more involved with town decision-making and town planning.
Could that be something, Mr. Harvey, that we wait for our town manager and then implement? I just think once we get a town manager here, maybe get some input from them about adding possible committees at that time.
I don't know. I think it's a council decision, but these are not, it's not to take over operations, but these would be committees that would advise the council, not necessarily to take over any staff operations.
Anyone else? Okay, those will be left on the agenda. Next.
Mayor, if we can, just for a moment, go back to item 7D. Just for clarity on the agenda item, I know that reads consideration of a Rule 5 public comment, rule and reg, and I know council has decided not to address the public comment period. Are we wanting to remove this from the agenda and come up with some language on limiting presentations for another meeting? Okay.
We'll remove item D until the attorney has time to look at that. Thank you.
You're
Mr. Swanson.
And
Okay,
and that's basically what I was, I'm not sure what we need to change. And I think, Mr. Swanson, you can help us with that, there's no question.
I think the change needs to be in the presentations.
that's all.
That's what we need to add, a 15-minute limit.
Okay, I'll take a look at that and put something together for you.
Thank you. Okay. Item H, consideration of approving resolution of local administrative project program Love Lady Sidewalk Project. Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Harvey and I attended a transportation meeting back in April in Hickory, and what we learned from that was that of funding available to municipalities for certain projects. At the encouragement of Councilman Harvey, staff began to look at viable projects for consideration by the town of Valdese, and we came up with two, where we came up with one project to be conducted in 2 phases. Phase 1, well, the project would be the installation or the construction of sidewalk from Laurel Street along the northern edge of Lovelady Road all the way down to the park. Phase 1 would be the construction of sidewalk from Laurel all the way down to Saft or Crescent Street. Phase 2 would be, again, to continue that all the way down to the park. What we're requesting this afternoon is a resolution to move forward with the applications. We would be submitting 2 applications. The commitment would be 20%. The cost estimate for phase 1 is $1.4 million, of which the local share would be $286,000. Now, before you fall out of your seats, just I think it's important to know that any of this funding would be over several fiscal years. It's not anything that you initially have to budget for in the upcoming fiscal year, but you need to be cognizant that if you move forward with this, with these resolutions, or with this resolution, it's committing us to 20% of the project. So phase 1 would be at a total cost of $1.4 million. If we put up $286,000, I think that's a good deal, but hey, council decides. Phase 2, again, would be from Saft or Crescent Street down to the park. That cost is $2.2 million, of which our share ultimately would be $448,000. Again, it would be in phases. We don't anticipate, if we are funded for one of the projects, we submitted 2, it's likely or hopeful that maybe we will receive funding for one of these projects. Councilman Harvey can tell you that these funds, all these years, have been going to other municipalities in the Unit 4, and smaller municipalities were not even remotely being considered. So we hope to submit 2 applications. We hope to at least get 1 approved, and we're hoping by resolution that you will support these applications. I do have Daniel Odom with COG here to ask specific, if you have specific questions related to this grant. It's called a LAP grant, which is Local Administration Project Program Grant. A lot to swallow, but this young man is an expert in this. And so if you have some questions, that's fine. I can ask him to come up, but the consideration is for you to add this to the agenda and to adopt the resolution so that we can apply for these funds. Questions?
Council?
What is the timing of the application?
I'll bring Daniel up for that, if you don't mind, Mr. Harvey, but I think it's, with this resolution, that would complete the phase.
You had him with you.
Yes, my guy.
So the preliminary applications were due at the end of April. We like to allocate another extra month for resolutions to give local governments more time to consider what they're signing up for. At this upcoming MPO meeting tomorrow, we'll present our preliminary plans based off of the applications we are anticipating to receive. And then next month, in June, we will approve those applications.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I thought I had missed it, but we got another month. And how much totally are we looking at in this first round? Available, how much to the whole region is available?
So our target investment total is $3.5 million.
3.5.
Yes, we do. We have, over the next 6 years, roughly 3.5 available per fiscal year.
And if this, if this was awarded, we would have to amend our budget. Would it be in this fiscal year that we would have to come up with the 20% in your estimation, or would it be
No,
following year?
As it stands right now, the first year that the town of Valdese would receive programmed funding would be in '25. Really, the amount that you budget for depends on how quickly the project progresses. So say you receive your PE and design funding in '25 and '26, you would work to budget for 20% of your total design cost for those 2 years. Where you would have to be more aware of Your own budget would be in the latter 2 years of the project life cycle, which would be construction, where a considerably greater amount of that local match would be absorbed. So these projects are rear-end heavy. Most of the local match is going to be absorbed and towards the rear of the project's life cycle.
I like the idea personally. I think this would be part of the, if Beth Hiley were here, she would probably be standing up and shouting in support of this, but this would really connect people from the park to the community of Valdese. At least it would give them a pathway to get to downtown. I like the idea. I think it would be great.
Mr.
Anybody
Johnson?
else?
Yeah, did I hear you say, Mr. Johnson, we would pay that over a certain amount of time?
Well, I think Mr. Odom alluded to it, that in terms of our 20% commitment, it wouldn't be like it needed to be included in next year's budget. At some point in time, as the project proceeds, if we get funded, then we would need to incur some of that 20% cost, likely beginning in 2025.
What amount would we have to incur?
Well, it depends upon several factors, of which number one, right now we're working with an estimate. When we get down to it, we will have to incur engineering costs, and once that is determined, and we begin to implement the project, then 20% of whatever the engineering would be. Then it would be 20% of whatever the construction is in the following years.
And just to clarify, you talk about phase one and phase two. Are we applying for both of them at the same time?
Yes, sir.
In either priority, if we only got one, would it?
We're hoping, we're letting the MPO decide. It was just recommended that if we're going to apply, why not just apply for the whole thing and see if we get anything at all.
Okay.
So that's pretty much our position. We want, eventually, the desire is to get it completed, so maybe we'll look up and won't get too many other municipalities may not present any viable projects. So
these two add to 3.6 million.
that's correct.
But there's only going to be about 3.5 million
So
available for the whole region. So
it's not likely, but it's always good to be there.
well, it never hurts to ask.
Absolutely. That's part of what I say, 50-50 if you ask, 0 if you don't. So I say it all the time. The only question I have before I take my seat is this resolution, again, just moving forward the process, is it something that you want to consider for the consent agenda, or you prefer it to be part of the regular agenda?
I think the consent agenda.
Yeah, consent
Sounds good
agenda
to me.
should be fine. Council, is that sufficient? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Mhm.
Okay, item I, consideration of master services agreement with McGill Associates. Mr. Weichel?
Okay. I'm going to back up to the one we just considered H, just to clarify the budgeting part of that. Those monies since it's a special project, we wouldn't include that with our regular budget process. That would be a capital project budget by itself, kind of like we have the public safety building. So when that time comes, that'll be its own separate budget, and we would transfer out of the general fund for that 20% match.
Okay.
So we don't have to worry about it in next year's budget process or anything. Okay? All right. Item I, so master services agreement with McGill Associates. So what spurred this on was Greg Padgett's retirement. We're losing some expertise on water resources management. So what this does, it does two things for us. It gives us an on-demand professional service that we can pull from for that expertise. They would charge by the hour for that, such things as planning, design, bidding, doing some administrative funding, facility design work, that kind of stuff. And then the second item of this agreement is for task orders on actual projects, so doing engineering work, some of that more technical stuff on actual projects, not day-to-day stuff, but project-related stuff. So it covers both those scopes.
Okay. Council, questions?
So there's no funding commitment to this except for hourly time as we need them throughout the year.
Pay as needed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hearing no comments, we'll leave this on the agenda. Thank you.
Do you want that to go to consent?
Yeah, is that all right, council? Put it on
Yeah.
consent? Consent. Thank you, Mr. Stain. Yep. Okay. Consideration of interim manager, and I am not sure what this is. It should be in closed session.
I think that's probably on after we have a closed session. We can take action on
Okay.
at the regular meeting.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. J. Item K, consideration of approving resolution of authorizing upset bid process for the sale of town-owned property located at 338 Tron Avenue, and I believe that's northwest.
So K and L kind of go together. These lots are right next to each other. We've got a offer on each one. So this resolution is just to start that upset bid process that we've become familiar with.
And those have to be handled separately. Is that,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah. Separate
They can be
resolutions.
put on consent?
The offer's how much?
So the offer is $3,500 for each lot.
These are two lots that are assessed at $20,000.
Is it, yeah, I brought up the, yeah, 20,700 for one. I think the other one's the same. So we're getting offered 3,500 on that.
The town has about 5 or 6 parcels remaining. We have sold now, with these next 4 coming up, I assume those are, well, next 3 coming up, those have gone through the bidding process, so you're recommending approval of sale of those 3. And that means that we've sold now, I think altogether 5 properties this year, and for roughly $120,000, which is, I think we established at the last meeting, is gonna go into the public safety building account. And we now have about 5 or 6 parcels left that may or may not be suitable for building. I strongly urge that the council now take these properties, including these 2 and the other 4, whatever we have left, and give local realtors an opportunity to list them and market them. What we're doing, if we get, I mean, these things have been sitting, the town's owned some of these lots for a long time, and gets nothing for them, no tax return, so if we sell them for anything, at least we get some revenue but we also get them back on the tax roll. But, you know, in real estate, if you've got property to sell, you wanna market it and get the best price you can, and, instead of just sitting back waiting for somebody to come along and make us an offer of $3,500 for something that the Burke County Assessor says is worth $20,000. So if we're gonna get into a discussion of the value of these lots, I'd like to hear the Burke County Assessor talk about it, but, at any rate, I'd like the council to consider, I don't know what the process is on this upcoming agenda, but my suggestion is, let's not take these offers. Instead, let's put together a new inventory of what's available, what parcels are available, and let's run them by the local realtors. We have, 4, 5, 6 realtors in town with offices. Let's give them an opportunity to put their signs out there, list them, market them, see if they can bring the town the best possible price for them. And some of them are gonna get buildings put on them, which is even more taxes, so, the $120,000 worth that we've sold so far, that's gonna bring the town about $500 a month of, property tax revenue. And then if a building is put on them, it's gonna be, of course, much more than that. So that's my suggestion, is that we come up with a new inventory of what parcels we have left, share them with publicly somehow, share them with all of our town realtors, see if anybody wants to market these things for us.
I like this idea very much. I like that we're giving a chance for our town realtors to market these properties. So I think this is a good idea. Very supportive of it.
I agree.
Okay,
So just a question on that, maybe for Mr. Swanson.
Yeah,
So we do have to go through the upset bid process, Army still.
yep.
How does that work with a realtor? Are we gonna just get an offer and then,
Yeah, so any offer we'll just have written in, it's subject to the upset bid statutes.
okay.
And in fact, we took care of that with the listing of the Pine-Burr property.
Right.
And it's built into the listing agreement that what he's doing is searching for an offer that will come back to the town and to the upset bidding process.
Okay. Very good. Any questions, Bo?
Do we need to make a motion for that or wait till next meeting?
Are you wanting to remove these items, the two? Yeah, I don't think a motion's necessary.
Okay.
Whoever requested that they be put on is okay with that.
Okay, K and L will be removed from the agenda.
Are we gonna do a motion the next meeting to market the properties, or is that just gonna be a council direction?
A council directive.
Okay.
M, N, and O would not be in that also?
No. I think they've already got bids on those, is that correct?
Well, they went through the upset bid process already, so
Yeah.
this resolution is just for council to approve selling
Yeah.
them.
So K and L's the only two items that'll
Yeah.
involve. Okay,
I'm sorry, we're talking about now, what now?
item M,
Okay.
consideration of approving resolution of sale of town-owned property, 308 Stewart Avenue Southeast.
Yeah, so M, N, and O, these are all by the same person that offered on these properties. So last month we did the council approved the upset bid process. So we've gone through that now. There was no upset bids on it. So what they offer is what this resolution is saying that sell it to them for.
Can we just put those on the consent
I
agenda?
think so. That's
Can you
all right.
tell us how much they offered for each one again?
I can, hold
Why
on.
can't these be sold
So
too?
308 was $10,000.
10, okay.
Yeah, and
They
that
already been sold.
All right, so
317 Stewart was for 20.
Okay.
And I believe the 460 Perkins was 40,000.
Okay.
Okay, so M, N, and O will go to consent. Okay, item B, capital project ordinance amendment, Klein Avenue Pump Station, Mr. Weichel.
So this amendment for the Klein Pump Station project, remember at the last council meeting, we approved the construction contract for that project. So what this is doing is amending the capital project budget to account for that construction costs and the SRP loan that we're getting for that. So that's what this is doing here.
Okay.
Can we do that on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we had already approved that, hadn't we?
Yeah, approved the construction contract, but I have to amend
This
the
is
budget.
Budget ordinance
Yeah,
amendment.
budget ordinance.
Okay, item Q, capital project ordinance, pool structure.
All right, so what this document does is it sets up a capital project. So we just amended a capital project. This is actually setting up a capital project for the pool structure over there at the Aquatics Center. So at the last council meeting, council approved the engineering contract to design the structure. So what we're doing now is setting up the project ordinance to account for that. And then once we get the design and we go out for bids and get a construction contract, then we'll come back and amend this.
Okay.
So it's a couple step process, but this establishes, and why we wait to do it is because we don't have any known costs yet. But now that we have a known cost for the engineering work, they're getting started with that engineering work. This allows us to pay that.
Okay,
And can that go consent?
Yeah, that can go on consent if everybody's good with that.
consent, please, Ms. Clerk. Okay. Interim manager's report, that can wait till next June 3rd.
Mayor, before we move on, if I may, so Beth Hiley, speaking of her, she's been working on a trail easement, and I'm not familiar personally with this location. It's between Hoyle Creek and Lake Roadhis Road, and it's on the property owned by Burke County Public Schools. We have been waiting for Crescent and Duke. There is a conservation buffer on the property, And so we've been waiting for them to sign off and basically give their approval of this easement. It's for a walking trail, and they finally have done that. It kind of came in last minute, is the reason it didn't make your agenda. I don't know, I know Beth would like to see this get on for our meeting on June 3rd, and rightfully so. We've been working on this for some time now. So if that's an item that you guys would entertain adding to, we can certainly get a draft of that easement out to you before, well in advance. I can get it out to you tomorrow.
We'll add that to June 3rd.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Swanson, would you prefer, is that easement, is that something that could not be consent agenda?
It
since
certainly could be on the consent agenda.
is-
I guess we could start it that way, and if anybody wants to remove it from consent after seeing the easement, if they have questions, we can remove it at that time.
Right, it's the easement related to the housing project, the Valdese Bluffs, our ability to serve that particular 100-plus acre site with sewer.
No,
So, no,
no,
this
no,
one's
this
just for
is
the
different.
trail.
This is just
Okay,
for the trail.
This was just for the trail?
Yeah.
Okay, but again, it's something we've been working on for a while in conjunction with recreation. It is just an easement. Any consideration for consent would be certainly appreciated.
Okay. Good to go, consent agenda. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, going back to the agenda for tonight or this afternoon's meeting, item 5, closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney retained by the town in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the town attorney and the town council, which privilege is hereby acknowledged. Also, closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee. Council, I'll take a motion to go into closed session, please.
I make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor signify by raising your right hand and saying yes.
Yes.
So be it. And we'll take a 5-minute break before we go into closed session.
We'll pause the recording.
Okay. Council, what's your pleasure?
I move we adjourn.
A
Second?
second.
Those in favor? So be it.
Aye.
So be it.